Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us for Spotlight on Senior Issues. This series of programs is looking at issues facing senior citizens, a growing population in our society, perhaps the fastest growing population segment. And we're looking at issues not only for the seniors, but perhaps their children and their grandchildren. So we hope we're able to provide some information for you, the viewers. Today we're looking at nursing home care, and joining me is Sue Joslin, an administrator of a nursing home. Thank you for being here
Well,
today.
thank you for asking me.
We've covered a wide range of different topics on this series of programs, and nursing homes is something that we've heard about for years, but are you seeing, as the population does grow, the aging population, more of a need in our society?
More of a need and an understanding of different levels of care that the nursing homes provide in the area.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll answer some of those questions
Okay,
today as we
good.
go through the program. As you say, there's different levels of nursing home. In the past, people may have just had this image of a nursing home where someone goes and they have a nurse taking care of them 24/7, and that's all they do. Different
Well,
now.
that's certainly not the case anymore. Independent living facilities are available just to have someone there to make sure everything's okay. Assisted living facilities, just like what St. Luke's has, as far as we provide meals, medication, help with that, because a lot of times they're doing okay at home, but they may not be eating right or taking their medication right. So that's really, where that comes in handy. And we have the traditional nursing home and also rehab. So if someone needs just to get back up on their feet after an accident or something, have some therapy, go home.
So are many facilities multi-purpose facilities now, that it's not just strictly a nursing facility?
You definitely see that more than you did 39 years ago when I entered this profession.
So as people are looking at their elderly parents or their grandparents needing care, it's to kind of look at what type of care do they need. You have to assess what they're looking for.
You have to assess and start early. When you kind of see it down the road a little bit and start thinking about it, it would be really helpful not to have to make a rush decision.
Imagine it's more of a crisis situation where grandma or grandpa or mom or dad ends up with a broken leg and suddenly we've got to do something.
You can do something and the hospital says we're discharging them today.
So, well, let's try to take people through some of these steps and items to consider then as they're looking. I imagine family involvement is one of the first steps.
And hopefully there is a family that's in the area and involved in that decision-making process. If there's not, the hospital social workers usually step up to the plate and kind of help, and hopefully they can at least communicate with the family that's not in town.
So when the time comes when you can no longer go home, maybe after you've been in the hospital, or you're in the home and you no longer can stay home, you've got to look at assess, what's best.
You have to look at what's best, and location as far as being available for the family to come and visit, what services are provided, and just make sure you go visit.
And that's a big step. I know in other programs we've talked about, assisted care and so forth, eyeball it, be there and see the facility.
Make an appointment. Most facilities have an admission coordinator that helps them through this process. Make an appointment with them, and one thing I would probably say as a little hint, do it close to a meal time.
Okay.
And take a look at the dining room, see how the staff interacts with the other residents, and just what exactly is on the menu for the day.
Because that's a lot of unknowns for someone who's maybe lived in their house all their life, and suddenly you're no longer going to be in your home, you're going to be in a facility where you're sharing meals with people, you have a common eating area.
That's a big change. And with the patient-centered care anymore, they can pretty much have whatever they want to eat as far as what their diet allows.
So a lot of coordination, and so nursing homes definitely have changed over the years.
Yes, they have.
Care options and time. So starting early. You may have a parent who's aging, as you say, well, eventually this is going to come up. Where do we start looking? Where do we even find out what nursing facilities are available in the community?
If you go to Medicare.gov, there is a Compare Nursing Home link that will tell you a lot of information. It's not everything and sometimes it's not really up to date as far as their inspections or what's actually going on, but that's really a good place to start.
Of course, the government regulations, they're following
Yes,
what the nursing homes
they
are doing.
do. Trust me, they do.
So a lot of research online, starting just seeing what's out there.
Correct, and you can do it by county or by city, so you can get a wide range.
How about personal recommendations? Sometimes somebody will say, well, our neighbor down the street was in, let's go talk to her kids.
And that's really good, because, like I told you earlier, I have a lot of family members that are actually in the facility right now. So, it is helpful to have somebody that has an experience with the facility. Your physician, too, can also be a great resource.
Right, so somebody who's used to dealing with seniors who might have, that situation. Well, what questions, let's say you have your appointment, you're going to visit the facility, it's your day to go there, what sort of questions do you recommend people ask when they visit?
Take a tour. Just don't sit in the office and say you want to see. Ask about staffing ratios, activities. Ask to see the menu because they have to have one posted. In the lobby or somewhere too, there is a book that should contain all of their inspection results and how it was fixed and whatever. That can be helpful too.
Okay, so a lot of facts are just sitting there, you just have to ask to see them.
As far as charges, who's going to pay for this? Most people think Medicare will do that. Medicare will only pay for a certain number of days after a 3-night stay at the hospital. You have to have that. And then you also have to be receiving physical, occupational, IV, or speech therapy.
So there are certain requirements for the Medicare
and then that
to
will
kick in.
only pay up to 100 days.
Is that 100 days a year? Just 100 days total in your lifetime?
In a year.
In a year. Okay, so a calendar year.
calendar
if someone
year.
were to go in and out of the hospital a couple of times, they could use up that 100 days.
And that 100 days is the first 20% is actually 100%, and then from the 21st through the 100th is 80-20 if you have a supplement or whatever.
So that's probably a lot of concerns of people is the financial costs.
Yeah, they're really surprised that Medicare is not going to cover this forever.
So they're assuming I've got Medicare, I'm older, the government's going to take care of
I got
me.
my little card, I'm good.
So does this place a dilemma on a lot of families trying to look at what resources they have to help cover the costs of medical?
And Medicaid is also an option for those who really
Qualify for
don't
that?
have any resources at all.
So getting back to the aspects of choosing a facility, looking at the ratings, as you said, online, being able to talk to people, see I know earlier show we talked to someone talked about when you go to a facility, just look around and they said smell.
Yeah. That's important, and St. Louis, we kind of have an unwritten logo that says we smell swell. Because, in my 39 years, I've been in a lot of facilities that can be an issue, and you don't want to walk in and have that as your first impression.
A negative impression right away when you walk through the door. What about special needs patients that you encounter? We're seeing a lot, more today. We're hearing more about Alzheimer's or memory, care needs.
Most facilities do have a special care unit. They are regulated a little more so than the rest of the facility, and there's certain criteria that has to be met all the time, especially with activities, how secure the environment is, how quiet the environment is. Someone may not have dementia, but do not handle a lot of stimulation around, so in a quiet area. So ask if they have that and ask to tour that as well.
So you can see that as well and take a look at it. What about room options? Some people might say, well, are we going to be in a double room like we might be at a hospital, or do you have opportunities for different housing?
We do have different, and it's kind of a hot button. It's interesting that you would say that, because I think the baby boomers are thinking, I want a private room.
I'm on my own, I want privacy.
Yeah, I want privacy. I don't know this lady, I don't want to go in there. So a lot of facilities are going to totally private rooms.
Okay. So they give you that privacy, and can they then set up that room to bring in touches of home so it's not so institutional looking?
Absolutely. In fact, we encourage that to make it as home-like as possible, and especially if that can be done before the resident is admitted. So when they come in, they see things that are familiar.
Right, so they're not just sitting in this room they've never seen before and they don't recognize anything and working together. What about visiting? And I know years ago even hospitals had certain hours when you could visit people.
Correct.
Family members want to come visit someone in a nursing
And that's one of the changes that I've seen throughout the years is we actually took the visiting hours off the door. And as long as there's nothing, contraindicated from the physician, they're 24/7.
So they can visit. Are you seeing more and more cases where you may have a spouse situation going in the nursing home and the other spouse at home still?
We see a lot of that, and that is really difficult, especially in the area of financing, where you don't want to impoverish the spouse that is still at home.
Right.
So that gets a little tricky sometimes.
Get a little tricky when you're dealing with couples and one is facing situations.
Correct. But we have some spouses that visit the resident probably 16 hours a day. So
now, are they allowed to eat dinner with them?
they are
and
absolutely
do those
encouraged
activities?
to do that. Yeah.
So they can, and then nursing home, you have, of course, the room in which the residents are staying. Tell me a little bit about the opportunities. People say, well, what's there for someone to do? We don't want to sit there and just stare at the TV all day.
Yeah, well, I have three of the most wonderful activity people in the world. They are so energetic, and by golly, we will be doing something today. If it's not on the calendar and you want to do it, that's fine. We had some ladies the other day that wanted to go see Magic Mike XXL movie. They went.
They took them to see the movie.
We took them to see the movie.
So you have in-facility activities as well as we're going to go out in the community and do things.
Fishing trips to the conservation center. We did that recently. So there's a lot of things going on, and the activities are mandated 7 days a week. It's not a Monday through Friday, just when these girls are here.
So it's not like Saturday's here, there's nothing scheduled today,
Right.
we're not going to do anything.
Correct.
Now earlier you mentioned therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy. Are these coordinated through the facility? Somebody comes in to administer this type of treatment?
Yeah, there's that staff, you know, in-house that take care of that, and so if that's needed, you know, check out the therapy room, the equipment, how people are interacting in there.
And so you need to, if your patient, your family member is going in and you know they're going to have to go through some sort of physical therapy,
Right.
find out what that program might involve.
And one of the most common things is a fall and a broken hip, and then they go through that and then hopefully go home.
Now, I've seen pictures, I've heard about the therapy where you'll have like group therapy, where people are doing their exercises together, I guess, basically in layman's terms.
There's several of those going on at any time, but then there's a lot of individual, not just in the therapy room, but in the residence room. There's some residents that just don't want to go down there and be with everyone. So
you kind of tailor the needs.
It's tailored and very, very individualized.
So, and what about assessment as far as then feedback? If someone's going through therapy, obviously you probably have a goal to improve, like you say, to go home. How does that work in the system?
Well, from day one and even prior to admission, there are certain goals that the therapy department want to meet with this person when they get the assessment from the physician or whatever, and then that is reviewed weekly to see where they are.
And then communication with the family. You know, the family may not be there, but you're able to let them know that mom or dad has accomplished this week.
That, and they do that meeting every week as well. And if it's someone that's in the facility and they're not receiving this, it's just a long-term placement.
Right.
The care plan team, which consists of someone from nursing, dietary, housekeeping, activities, they meet at least quarterly to say, okay, this is the plan of care for that resident, to make sure everyone's still on the same page.
Okay, to make sure the plan progressing.
Right.
Now, when the family members do visit, after someone's in a facility, you obviously said check things out before you get there. What do they need to be looking for when they have a family member in the facility and they come to visit?
Personal grooming, how the staff interacts with not only their family member or loved one, but the other residents as well, and to see that, make sure mom's not wearing the same clothes she had on yesterday when I was here.
Right.
Just little details like that.
So something as simple as making sure their hair is combed, or the ladies have their fingernails polished if they want to do that, and those types of things.
There is a beauty shop. Most facilities have a beauty shop. The ladies love that, and they do have manicures and all of that to do the girly thing.
The girl thing, yes, so they can maintain their appearance. We mentioned a lot about ladies, but what about the demand for care for men? You know, a lot of times you may not always have that male going into a nursing home you hear about, but you still have a lot of men who need help.
80 to 85% population of women. So there are always activities for men too. Like I said, we had a fishing trip recently, and it was boys only. We, on Sundays, sometimes it's beer and popcorn, and during football season, that's what we have. It's the guy's thing. It's the guy thing.
Right. Now, is it harder to find rooms for guys? I mean, if someone has a family member who's a male versus, a female, is it more of a
There
demand?
has been times, but usually not.
So you need to check around and see
You
what the
need to
facilities
check
will be
around.
and so forth. So starting early is one of the key things you said. Look around, see what's available. And when someone makes that decision that it is time, that time of transition, not the case where somebody has to leave the hospital today and go somewhere tomorrow, but we're going to say, end of next week or whatever that time period is. What should someone be doing to prepare the family member at home for that move?
Well, I see that a lot, especially around the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, that family comes to town and maybe mom's not doing as well as mom had told them that she was doing. And when they actually get there, they may not be wanting to make the decision then, but they're kind of just thinking down the road. And so that happens, like I said, a lot around the holidays, it seems like. But you know, getting the finances in order, having power of attorney if that's necessary, you know, to be able to make some decisions.
And that's something we've discussed in another program, if people can recall. The power of attorney gives those family members or that person who has the power of attorney some ability to help out beyond just the individual.
Absolutely. Make sure they know where all the financial resources are, whether it's life insurance, stocks, bonds, all of that. Because they may have put a life insurance policy in their drawer 20 years ago and forgot about it.
Tell anybody about it. Do you find that sometimes seniors, older people are hesitant to tell everybody that information?
Oh,
The family
absolutely.
secret. We're not going to talk about it. You know.
Especially when I see that when the family feels it's time to maybe apply for Medicaid and they have to show all of these resources and what happened to them as far 3 to 5 years back.
Right.
And you know, that's quite a process which can be very intimidating.
And of course, Medicaid's a big step because you're then the government's assistance does come in.
And that really tells everyone I have less than $1,000 to my name. So it's tough.
It's tough to do that. But
It's
even
very
somebody
tough.
who has saved throughout their life might have that life insurance policy or some investments. Someone needs to know beyond just that senior parent
Exactly.
what is happening along those lines. What about the concerns of people that they are leaving maybe their hometown or their community, the people they grew up with, their friends and so forth, the socialization aspect of being in a nursing home? Are people hesitant? I'm not going to know anybody there.
I'm not going to know anybody. Well, we have actually a committee of ambassadors that are made up of residents. So, you know, that's their job to make them feel comfortable as, you know, and augment what the facility's doing.
So they're able to feel welcome. You're part of our community now and welcome aboard.
My name is, and all that. So they usually meet the resident at the door with flowers and introduce themselves. They're the first ones to greet them, and then our staff is next.
So you know they're coming. We're going to get everybody together to help them out.
Right.
What about the aspect of the religious concerns if somebody's used to going to church every Sunday or something like that, older family members? Do you have those type of services on site as well?
Absolutely. We have a lovely chapel, and St. Luke's is part of the Episcopal Church. The original seed money came from a non-interest-bearing loan from the diocese years ago. And the board of directors are members of the Episcopal Church. But you don't have to be an Episcopalian to come there. But we have a beautiful chapel, and the local churches are on a rotation on Wednesdays and Sundays to come and do services. So every religion is represented in the calendar, and then the Episcopal Church has a service weekly.
Right. So that's something to ask for as people are looking for facilities. Do we have the opportunities if grandma's been used to going to church every Sunday?
Right,
you know,
and they're still welcome to go out if they're able to do that, and you know, the transportation and it's, you know, physically capable, you know, still go out and be part of the community.
You think that's something that people don't understand, that once you get in there, you can't leave the doors.
You can leave. Right. You know, you can go out and, you know, whatever your level of comfort is.
So family members could pick them up and take them to church or take them to the big birthday party and things like that. And work together along those lines. Special needs, you mentioned Alzheimer's and dementia type care. We're seeing much more of that in our society as well. That is a very emotional time for the family as well.
It's very hard. Just making this decision is hard because I think, you know, we all recognize that even in today's environment, as fabulous as some of the facilities are, there's still a sense of finality to go into a nursing home. Right. And, you know, our social workers and everything really try to help the family through that.
And so communication between the facility and the family, if they have a parent they're wondering, well, how is she doing or how is he doing, you know, they've lost their memory or they're losing, you know, these abilities to do certain things.
And, you know, usually the resident goes through some stages when they know that's happening. So that's probably the most difficult aspect, to see that when they know things aren't right. Right. You know, that makes it difficult and help them, you know, be able to handle that.
From the resident's point of view.
From a resident's
standpoint. That things aren't going to be the same.
Because it's more of a gradual thing usually, and so, you know, there's a little going on there that I know things just aren't right.
Right. And so you have the services and facilities that provide that support and to help them.
We have
those steps.
psychologists available, we have licensed clinical social workers available, and they're really good at that.
Great. Well, I know you have a website which we haven't gone to. I
Yes.
thought let's call that just to kind of show people an example of as you go to look at nursing home facilities. This is what you have for your website. So
It's good, and you can click on whether or not you need assisted living or skilled, and all of our contact information is on there as well. But we'd really encourage people to come by and see what we've done. It's really beautiful.
So a lot of the first step for a lot of people there today, especially the younger generation, let's go to the website and see what they have to say.
More and more people are using the internet as a resource to get started, every day. So we welcome that.
Now, we've been talking in general terms about how to pay and so forth. Is there anything like a ballpark figure of what a nursing home facility might cost? Somebody might say, well, what would it cost? I'm sure it's going to vary with the different levels of care.
It does vary with the different levels of care. The assisted living in most places, including St. Luke's, is about half of what the nursing home itself costs, because it's not as labor intensive.
Right.
So there's a lot more services, and but you're looking at probably close to $200 a day for the nursing home. So, and then more like $80, $85 a day for assisted living.
So when people start putting the pen to paper and start calculating,
and they think, mom or dad may have this little nest over here, but at those numbers, it can go pretty quickly.
You can take that nest egg down pretty fast.
Pretty fast. So as a result of that, I am seeing more and more people consider long-term care insurance, which a few years ago, that really wasn't a topic discussed. But I get calls every week asking, does this stuff really work, and which is a good one, and if I buy it, how much of a policy should I buy, that sort of thing.
So it's becoming more of a trend in our society from your point of view. People are looking at that type. And long-term care insurance, then what does it cover for people who are watching? What would that cover?
Most of the time, it's basic room and board.
Okay.
Your hair sets, going to the beauty shop, and your medications and that sort of thing is not covered, just the daily room rate.
Right, but that's a big chunk of money.
That is a big chunk of
stay.
money.
Right, so
and most of those have a 90-day elimination period, which is kind of like their deductible.
okay.
So
you've got to pay out of pocket for 90 days.
That first, and that seems to be common, and then anywhere from $100 to $200 a day benefit.
Okay. But is it one of those types of insurances that the earlier you get it, the younger it's more affordable for people?
Absolutely. You want to buy it in your 60s and not when your 85th birthday.
So it's an investment type of situation that you can look at for people who, and I know that I've seen statistics that says the percentage of people needing nursing facilities is going to continue to grow, that those people in that age group is going to end
It
somewhere.
is. There's going to be more of the baby boomers that are aging, and they're living longer as well. So
you're having that type of situation in those facilities. The aspect as far as the medical care in a nursing home, do you work closely then with the family doctor, the doctor who comes in, or how does someone get those checkups or follow up how they're doing on the medical side of things?
Well, regulations have a lot to do with that. At a minimum, the resident is seen by their physician every 30 days for the first 90 days.
Okay.
And then every 60 days thereafter, or unless something is warranted, to check out something else.
So you need to have that medical contact and tying through. And I know today so many seniors seem to have a lot of medications as well. That probably takes some coordination as well.
It does. That is a huge job, just keeping track of medications.
We've seen people that will have 5 or 6 bottles. These are my morning pills. These are my afternoon pills.
And sometimes they go and they've had this pill forever and they really don't know what it is, but I've been taking it for 10 years. So it's a good review too, to see what everything.
But do you think that's an aspect that families need to talk maybe to their elderly family members ahead of time? Is mom or dad, you've got a lot of pills here on the counter. What are they for?
And half the time they probably don't know. But each facility too is mandated to have a medical director on staff, and so that would be another question that someone might want to ask is, who is your medical director?
Right. So there's a lot of different aspects, the medical, the psychological, the social aspects, a lot of things to look at.
A lot of things going on.
Going on and considering for nursing home care. You mentioned early on the rehab type care, which is actually a facility, but they don't necessarily stay there. They're going to go back home when that broken bone heals.
Heals, and they're up and going. You know, we see that more and more. We really do. And it's wonderful that they're able to go home. But the social service department, too, may set up Meals on Wheels for a little while when they get home, or set up some assistive devices. Make sure the home is safety. The therapy department will actually do a home visit to check on how many stairs there are, the throw rugs that might be a trip
things that we don't think about.
We
but
don't
if you
think
can't
about
lift your feet, you're going to trip over those
right,
rugs.
and some advice on how to even get dressed in the morning or showering. That different things that they will take a home visit and do an assessment to see if that's a good environment for the resident.
So you really have to kind of pass that test before you can be discharged and ready to go back home.
But they really do a good job with that.
Right. And then the families then once working with them to make those changes if changes need to be made.
Correct.
And so forth. Well, you've been working in nursing home facilities for a while. What do you enjoy the most working as an administrator? Being able
What
to
I
do that?
enjoy the most, just listening to some of the stories that these residents, they have a lifetime of experience that they're sharing. And just their sense of humor sometimes is amazing. That I know they have got some aches and pains here and there, but they're still just having fun.
And the stories aspect of people, that we hear a lot about oral histories, recording what grandma has to say or what grandpa has to say. I imagine there's people that are just dying to tell they want to tell those stories to people, share those experiences.
We recently had a whole week that was centered around Little House on the Prairie. So they all, this is how we did it, or that's how we did it too. So they really enjoyed that because it really brought back a lot of memories.
Sharing
for
a lot
them.
of things with each other. So the residents are sharing within that community as well, supporting each other that way.
Correct.
And tying all of that together. So just kind of summarize, if people are looking for information, start by getting an early start.
Early start.
And start researching. You have online resources. There's government resources. You mentioned Medicare has a website.
Yes, Medicare.gov, and that will get you wherever you need to go as well.
Okay.
It has a link that says Compare Nursing Homes.
And of course, our coverage area is quite a large coverage area, so wherever people are watching, whether it's here in the Joplin region, Carthage, across the state line, there's probably some resources to help them everywhere they're at.
Once they get there, they can either click on Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, whatever, and drill down a little further.
Okay. But from your point of view, start looking at it before it becomes a crisis.
Exactly. You don't want to make a fast decision.
Work it out. Well, Sue, I'd like to thank you very much for providing information for our viewers on this program.
It was a pleasure being here today.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank the viewers for joining us this week as we've looked at senior issues and the focus on nursing homes, another aspect of lives for our senior citizens and their families and their children. And I hope you can join us again as we continue to spotlight senior issues on this series. I'm Judy Stiles. We'll see you then.